Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a BlazeCasting presentation, bringing you a game between OG and, it's Team oGaming and the Chaos Dunkers, part of the OOC Community Cup Out of Control tournament. So we're bringing you that game with the start off. The Radiant team is going to have first pick there and banning out the Darkseer, and the Chaos Dunkers have casted one time before, but the Dire team I have not, so we'll see what we got coming out of them. This is just part of their tournament, doing a little bit of an amateur cast, and if you guys don't know me, I'm Blaze Inferno of BlazeCasting, and just kind of an amateur caster, along with this amateur tournament, kind of just moving along with it and trying it out, so that's fun there. Got the Naga Siren and the Lycan ban, pretty common in this metagame, to ban out those two. If you ban out the Naga and you don't have the first pick, you definitely want to make sure the Lycan is off the board, so you don't have to worry about the fact that you don't really have a hard counter to him, and there's a couple of soft counters too, but Naga being the main one. Leshrac and Lone Druid being the ones taken off the board. Leshrac just having a lot of pushing potential with his Diabolic Edict, and just can play multiple roles, whether supportive in a tri-lane setup or even like a solo mid for just powerhouse magic damage, that kind of thing. But the Lone Druid is also going to be banned off, so he will not be able to either jungle or go for that either short or long lane solo, and that's a good pick off by them, making sure that they don't have to worry about a very frustrating hero who's very tanky and can build up his bear to be very destructive. And the Enigma is going to be the final ban out for OG, just something they don't want to deal with. There's a lot of ways you can counter Enigma, so you generally don't see Enigma first ban, but they just want to make sure he's off the board, especially since they don't have first pick and they're not looking for him. But Chaos Knight is going to be the one that is opened up. Now, Invoker and a number of other heroes are still on the board. I'm curious if they're going to pick up like an Ancient Apparition or a Lich to try to make sure that Chaos Knight doesn't have to line up. There's also a couple of big heroes like Shadow Demon, things along those lines that can be drafted to counteract his massive illusions, kind of throwing more into the fray. Will definitely benefit overall. So along those lines, Chaos Knight brings to the table the RNG, the random number generation potential of having a very long duration stun go along with everything, and really just be very destructive in that fashion. He can lane really well with a Leshrac, who is banned out, an Ancient Apparition, or a Lich. Those kind of heroes where his setup stun just puts out tons of damage, and it's really hard to deal with in that dual lane setup. But Venomancer can also be a really good support for him, as well as Crystal Maiden. And really any powerhouse support that goes for aggressive skill build can do a lot for them. And so Chaos Knight can really do some domination in the early game phases of the lane, although he's very mana reliant, but he can also transition to kind of a pushing strat with the Phantasms, and also scale well with that crit into later in the game. The Rubik and Windrunner is going to be picked up from OG. Forgot about the Rubik, but yeah, those two heroes, very, very versatile, have a lot of potential, whether Rubik wants to go for a supportive setup or go for the solo mid. Also, Windrunner can go for a suicide while they do a 3-1-1 setup, or a 2.5 at the very least if they do pick up a jungler. But Windrunner can also play supportive or in the solo mid, so she is probably the most versatile here in the game, in my book. But the Rubik is shortly after. He has a very large dynamic with the skills that he can pick up with that ultimate, the spell steal. And now Venomancer is going to be the one that is going to be laning with the Chaos Knight. So Chaos Dunker is picking that up for a powerful dual lane there. Rubik and Windrunner, like I said, can roam anywhere, whether they want to go for the one of those, or for the solo mid and solo top. That's an option, or one of them can play supportively. Along those lines, they still definitely, I would say that Radiant doesn't necessarily need a carry player, or the carry hero per se. Chaos Knight can fill that role if they just want to go for some early game aggression and not really worry about past the 45-minute mark, trying to focus on the domination around the 30-minute mark and just kind of going from there. But the Invoker is going to be picked up, a very great pickup there, and I'm curious to see if they're going to go for a silencing hero to counteract it, maybe a Night Stalker, maybe an Orchid Building Storm Spirit. You could see a Death Prophet, that kind of hero, even a Drow carry, not very common in the metagame, in the sense that she is very squishy and doesn't have much as far as escape mechanisms go. But that Invoker, if he's allowed to just chain cast back to back, can be very, very destructive in the hands of a skilled player in whatever skill build he does decide to go. But the jungler Chen is going to be picked up. Enchantress and Chen both made it through the draft, and possibly Enchantress going to be banned out very, very shortly, because that Chen did get picked up, and now gives them the option of running a 2.511, which I definitely think they are going to opt for. So what they're looking at there is the Windrunner going for, in this case, bottom lane, unless they want to go for an aggressive tri-lane, which I kind of doubt, but I did see that in the last lineup with Mobility Gaming picking up Enchantress and going for a very aggressive tri-lane, which is very fun to see. Nature Prophet ban coming out. But like I was saying, the Windrunner could go for a bottom lane suicide with Chen in the jungle up top, and then a carry and either Rubik on the top lane, or Rubik in the middle and another lane support for the carry. So pretty much what the Dire team is going to be drafting for. Team oGaming going to be going for either a solo mid or a lane support along with a pretty solid carry. And there's lots on the board still. There's still Morphling, very amazing pickup to have available on your lineup. Also, I mean, Anti-Mage is still relatively prevalent in this meta, as well as some interesting ones like Templar Assassin with her burst damage combos and things along those lines. The AA does get banned out, so not going to go along with the Venomancer and the Chaos Knight in that facet. Not going to be able to negate all those things. And the Sand King ban kind of showing that they're maybe looking for maybe an Earthshaker or a Tidehunter to kind of control the AoE of the laning phase and moving on to the mid-game team fight. So they could definitely pick up a Tide, a Panda, or an Earthshaker and put a lot of disable and a lot of pain into the enemy's direction if that's what they want to draft for. Like I said, they can also go for a carry like a Tinker, or not a Lindred. Lindred's banned out, but a carry like a Tinker or any other carry per se, and kind of have the Chaos Knight play more of a ganker role, and that's an option as well. But it depends on how late game they really want to be opting for in this specific lineup. So right now, I think that OG has a lot more flexibility in the lineup. They can really go with whatever they want as a follow-up. But Death Prophet actually taken off the board. I don't know if OG was looking for that for their solo mid pickup or something else along those lines. But OG has a lot more flexibility in what they can go with. They can literally throw out anything. I would say Night Stalker would be a really nice pickup for solo mid, and then build that Rubik support. But obviously, OG can draft, Nakomi can draft however he wants, and if he wants to run that Rubik as the main power player, getting that solo experience, that's always a great way to do it too. But the Morphling is going to get picked up. Make sure they secure that powerful carry, and whoever ends up supporting him on the top lane, he's going to be doing very well in that sense for farm. Now, we could see some, like I said, some AoE coming out if we see a Earthshaker, Tide, or Panda pickup as a final lineup member of the lineup for the Radiant team. I think Chaos Dunkers can do a lot with that, and heck, why not have an Earthshaker? If you're going to be the Chaos Dunkers, you might as well go with the Chaos Dunk. But we'll see what they pull out in just a moment and kind of go from there. Let me just make sure that all my levels are right for everything, and it looks like everything is good for the moment. So we'll be moving forward and into the game in just a matter of moments after we see the last picks coming up. Along the lines, I would definitely say with the Morphling pickup, he can go for the early Ethereal Blade build if his farm is going really well early on. But generally speaking, he will be able to scale a lot better into the late game than a Chaos Knight will. And even though Invoker is very experience reliant and benefits even going from 24 to 25 as far as levels go, the Morphling, generally speaking, is going to be a powerhouse as long as he gets more and more items. And so the Lich is actually going to be the final pickup, and that Chain Frost can be extremely nasty in the sense that the Radiant team, or sorry, Dire team doesn't really have too much as far as summons or illusions or anything along those lines. The Replicant and the Chen Creeps are really the only things that's going to be bouncing the Chain Frost to anything else. So they're going to have to be very careful about that positioning, distributing the Frost as much as possible. Now, starting off, like I said, the Lich pickup being interesting, but the Crystal Maiden also a good lane support to be drafted up by OG, and they're going to be definitely running the OG with the Morphling in one way or another. Now, I'm curious to see if Chaos Knight's going to be going for a dual mid and let the Death Prophet solo on bottom. Archfiend picking up that Chaos Knight, and have to see him play with Doombringer. He can be very aggressive when he wants to be and farm up pretty effectively, more so than others and individuals in general. But that Invoker is probably going to be going for that middle lane as a traditional role, but can be kind of opted for anyway. And Rubik, spin, 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 getting it going. And he's actually opting for a relatively quick bottle with only 500 gold of farm to go. He won't be able to get it exactly by 2 minutes unless his CS is perfect, but he'll be able to get quite a bit out of it. And it looks like it's going to be that 2.511 with Rubik on the middle, Windrunner on the bottom, and that's going to be Crystal Maiden supporting the Morphling. So good pickups there, all in all. And starting off with Quaz on the Invoker is going to be building a drum, whereas the Chaos Knight might be going for an urn instead. So, and Venomancer going for Basilius, possibly for an Aquila. But one thing, if you notice the fact that he did buy the Ring of Protection and did buy the Observer Wards, I'm trying to see where his other 100 gold would have gone, but right now he only has one Tango, is pretty much what I'm looking at. So he possibly gave regeneration to one of the other heroes.
The battle begins.
In my mind, I'm not seeing it. So, 300. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but it does look like he should have had 100 gold more. And right now he is sitting at just 1 stack of tangos. One way or another, a repeat, blocking up on the Rubik and trying to get as much lane control right off the bat as he can up against this Invoker, because this is going to be more difficult than usual to last hit against this Invoker. He didn't buy any HP regeneration, but if he just skills a couple points in quas, that regeneration over time is generally sufficient for him. But starting that off now, the most interesting lane is going to be up top. Absolutely, this tri-lane, 3 versus 2, going up against this Lich and already in aggressive position, and this Death Prophet here. Now, it's technically a 2.5 lane because Chen is controlling the jungle instead of the lane, but if he's the kind of Chen player I am, he's going to be opting to gank really, really quickly with the Centaur, even at level 1, and going with that Frostbite combo with the Centaur coming around. Centaur stun coming through, and this Waveform is going to net him first blood easily for the Morphling there, setting him up for a nice amount of gold and going for that quick Aquila. And actually, Death Prophet in a terrible spot, moved north for some reason, and Crystal Maiden didn't pick up the kill there. So 2 for nothing on the top lane already, starting that off and getting Crystal Maiden and Morphling a nice chunk of gold. He's already got that Basilius, whether he wants to push with it and keep it active or farm up. It looks like they're opting for push for the moment, at least, with this Centaur Con taking up quite a bit, stunning out a little bit, using up his mana, and transitioning on. Now on bottom lane, Windrunner should be able to hold pretty well against this Chaos Knight Venomancer. If any lane can shut her down, I believe this is one of them. Shadow Demon is a little bit better than Venomancer in that sense, because you can disrupt the wind run. But one way or another, it is a very powerful disable lane. 50% increased movement speed compared to 50% deficit when getting the Gale upon him can be difficult to escape with. But all in all, she should have an okay time as long as she plays very carefully, and she has very good warding, blocking off the pulls and making sure that they can't negate a lot of that experience. A little bit of action going on mid lane, Rubik pulling back the Invoker, trying to get some harass damage on him, and noting that he doesn't have any regeneration items, he is going to be able to play rather aggressively and force the Invoker to put a lot more points of quality than he probably would prefer. And another Frostbite coming through, and a couple more auto attacks with a Waveform should do it, and he just needs one more to follow it up, and Knives getting in yet another kill. So nice play by him. We'll have to pop a salve after the fact to get some more regeneration out. Death Prophet looking for a Crypt Form on him, but it's not going to happen. And even if it does, it's not going to be too big a deal. Pops a salve, and now getting harassed back quite a bit by this Crystal Maiden, while Chen gets to free farm in the jungle and focus on him getting some pretty early items as well. Maybe opting for a gank in the middle lane, but Rubik just zoning this Invoker really, really hard. He doesn't have nearly as much CS. The Invoker sitting at 3 and 0 compared to the Rubik's 9 and 5, and now bottling up and going to the bottom rune, which is covered up by this ward here. So he definitely sees that, picks that up, and has quite a bit of mana at his disposal with that regeneration rune he just bottled up. So Death Prophet kind of trying to harass back a little bit. Lich at level 2 now has a point in Frost Blast and is able to pressure a little bit back on the Morphling, but Morphling actually going for a stats build right now, has +2 in stats, and is being very aggressive with it. He doesn't have any morph at the moment, and that will hurt him in a couple levels when the fact of the matter is, I'll talk about that in a second, but right now they're doing very aggressively with this Centaur, putting a lot of damage down in quick, easy waveform, not even needing it, just auto-attacking him down, and now getting an auto-attack on the Death Prophet, trying to bring her down. But now they have the opportunity to, well, they're probably going to have to go around. Wait, no, the creep wave did just show up, so they can go back up north and put pressure on this tower. They're actually using the Centaur to block the creep wave, do a little bit of creep skipping, similar to Axile. So Sunstrike actually going to get dodged inadvertently by the Chen, and not much the Invoker can do to assist, as he's pinned down quite well in the middle lane. This tower is getting a lot of siege damage going into it. It is about to enter deny range with one more siege attack, and so they need to make the choice. Are they going to try to dive on top of it and try to force the issue, make sure that the tower is not denied, or are they going to, they're trying to make the decision whether Radiant wants to give them the gold now, and give them less gold, or wait and see if they can defend it and deny it in the midst of their combat. Overall, with this Chen having all these creeps available, he is going to be pressuring the tower in no time at all, and I think once they should bring down the tower to one hit away, and as soon as they start actually pushing up with that Chen, that's when the Knight has to go through. But it's inevitable this tower is going to fall, especially with the Basilius and this Chen here, and there's only so much they can do about it. So right now they're defending it and trying to hold it as a position, but right now it's going to be much more contested. However, the Morphling just farming away, 17 CS, same as the Rubik in the middle lane, and he's very, very happy for it. Now, Crystal Maiden actually roaming, my apologies, missed a kill on Venomancer on the bottom lane. Crystal Maiden opted for the bottom lane since Windrunner did seem to need some assistance, and actually got the kill on Venomancer, and one more auto attack with the Wind Run, trying to get the kill on the Chaos Knight with that salve should be alright, and Wind Runner's going to have to fall back. Taking a lot of damage from that tower. Up on top, the creep from Chen got killed out. They're trying to do some damage on Morphling. He doesn't have any more regeneration. Like I said, no points in Morph. Actually go for an Adaptive Strike stats build. And with that in mind, he will be able to do a lot with his, and getting sent back to base, he will be able to do a lot with an early Ethereal Blade if that's what he goes for. But right now he's just working on his Aquila and following up from there. Magic Stick, because all the spam. Lich casts a couple spells every time he wants a Frost Blast. He usually does a sacrifice along with it. And if you're in range, you can get a lot of charges that way. Same with Death Prophet with her spamminess, and he's just going to teleport right back up to keep that experience flowing, while Chen opts for a creep stack and then followed by a creep pull at 15 seconds. In the meantime, Crystal Maiden, where did she end up roaming off to? She is back in base, doing some action with counter warding, things along those lines, and trying to cover up, just playing very well supportively. They do have a flying courier, and they do have wards and observer wards and sentry wards, while this little imp courier here, is that an international imp? I don't know. It's just, I haven't seen too many of the cosmetic couriers in my games, but they do have one available for themselves. He's trucking the items across and not flying at the moment is the point I was trying to make. And with an Adaptive Strike, one more auto attack. The problem with this Adaptive Strike this early is it's 100 mana, and it only does a base of a minimum of... Actually, okay, so they do get the tower there, and Venomancer does drop down, as well as Chaos Knight, as well as Lich. Just all the pressure coming out in the direction. Reading tooltips, not really focused on what I need to be doing, but the Venomancer and the Chaos Knight getting dropped down by this crystal. Was this Windrunner solo? Venomancer was just killed, split along Rubik and Windrunner, so actually Rubik ganking, shoot. And Sunstrike does miss on him. He stole the Reality Rift from the Chaos Knight and utilized that in the gank. But overall, yeah, I did miss that kill on that series set. Was focusing a little bit too much on the build of the Morphling, and probably should have been paying attention more so to everything going on there. Now they know that, whether or not they know ward actions going on over there. Rubik was probably just saying that he needs some vision in that respect to be able to stay on top of his game. But Rubik doing fairly well, looking at level 7, actually the highest in the game next to Windrunner, his teammate, and Invoker not faring and as well at all. Almost going to hit level 7, but not there just yet. And the ongoing pressure onto top lane is not the position you want to be in. Generally speaking, against a Morphling team, you want to be the aggressors. You want to be the ones forcing the issue on the towers. And right here, they're just pushing on and on. They don't have too many issues. Tornado harassing the heroes back. He slows them down, just stops them in their tracks. So they can't do too much to defend this. Now they can. They have grouped up, and they're going to be doing a gank from the side. And this is really key here, how this goes. Morphling actually losing a lot of health here, and now actually coming in from the Chaos Knight onto the Crystal Maiden. Stun comes out there. They do get the kill on the tower from Crystal Maiden, and the waveform goes out. He's trying to escape, but with just a little bit of Cold Snap, he is juking pretty hard. Needs 3 more seconds on, and he's in and out of the trees, trying to dodge stuns as much as possible, and he actually does get the waveform off. That might be enough. Now Chen sending him back to base, and he will be perfectly fine. Really, really skilled jukes from the Morphling player there. And repeat, just topping up telekinesis, throwing him away, and disengaging from that combat session. So they did get the tower there, and it was not denied, and they actually did get a kill or two. So they did lose the Crystal Maiden, but not the biggest sacrifice for all that. When it is all said and done, being 10-3 and 2 towers up is very advantageous. You can see definitely in the gold graph, it's just been up and up and up in their direction. Pretty much exact same thing with the experience, as is generally the case. Now, Invoker doesn't have too much as far as mana sustainability, and he's going to be opting for a drum in a relatively brief amount of time. He probably should get a magic wand first, I'm not sure. But right now he is very short on mana. He has a cold snap, and literally that's what it is. So he's going to pop the cold snap on the, actually invoking, trying to invoke Ghost Walk, but he does not have the mana for it, and the auto attacks will bring him down. So a little bit misstep there, based on the fact they did not have a mana available for the spell he was invoking. Chaos Knight has picked up double Bracer. He didn't go for the urn at all. He said, I want stats, I want a lot of stats, and I want to try to swing us back into the temporary things. Eventually you're going to have to sell those as you start building up your item slots, but for right now, he's kind of delaying a core item in favor of just trying to sustain in his lane, be as effective as possible in his lane. Crystal Maiden even willing to dive with that Crystal Nova, knows those tower aggro mechanics quite effectively, in the sense that she's just walking by, casting spells, and zoning people off the lane. Whether, actually Chen ulti coming out, I'm not sure why, because pretty much everything but possibly his creeps were pretty well off in HP no matter what. So maybe a misclick, Don't know, not a big deal though. He does have his mech available, has picked that up. Does not, he went mech before boots actually. So he's like, we don't need mobility as long as we have a very stable and dedicated push. Now the Sunstrike actually comes out on the Invoker maybe? I'm not sure which Rubik stole, but the waveform coming across and trying to bring down, we're going to get 2 kills out of this, bringing down the Lich, bringing down the Death Prophet, and now looking for, with Adaptive Strike, going to bring down the Invoker. Triple kill Godlike for the Morphling, not the position that Chaos Dunkers want to be in right now. Team oGaming playing very well. Now Chaos Knight trying to bring some damage in, and he can pop. He doesn't have mana for the stun. Unfortunately, only have mana for 1 spell, and he gets dropped down enough. And the timing is enough for that to be an ultra kill streak, and the tower goes down to Dire. So that was the biggest win. That's almost an insurmountable gain right there. They got so much. They're over 10,000 gold advantage, and the experience is going to show the exact same thing. Almost all that gold went to Morphling. The tower gold obviously distributed, but this gold right here, he's going to buy his 3,300 gold item really quickly and pick up that Eagle Song. So he's got that going. Repeat, picking up. He's got Bottle Arcane, and he's going to be looking for not an Negative Scepter, he's looking for a Bloodstone. So he's going to disassemble the Arcane Boots and pick up a Bloodstone when he does have that gold available. And in the meantime, looking for a gank on Shaleblade on the Venomancer, who still does not many boots in this game, honestly. The Chaos Knight just got them recently. The Venomancer doesn't have them. Gank, just so much damage coming out. Double damage rune applied with that rank 4 Fade Bolt, just too much damage pressure. And he's going to not stand a single chance with that gank coming in. But Chen doesn't have boots. Venomancer doesn't have boots. It's kind of a little bit wild. But neither does Lich. Wow. So they've just been hurting so hard. And they weren't able. When they don't have that mobility, it's going to be very difficult for them to roam anywhere off their towers because they can get caught out so easily. Invoker's in a little bit better spot, running 1 point in Wex, but generally speaking, the Death Prophet, even with her points in Witchcraft, which increase her movement speed, she has a low base movement speed prior to these points. So she starts off with 285, but she gets about 22 more. I guess that's about 11 per point in that skill right now, but it's still going to be a movement speed disadvantage when you compare it to a Phase Boots Windrunner and things along those lines. So it's going to get harder and harder for them to sustain against this, and the Morphling does have his Eagle Song, if that's what he's picking up. Corey actually flying out to the Secret Shop, so undoubtedly. Yep, there it is. And now the action coming in on here. The Shackle does not latch. 1 second stun on Chen. Very unlucky for the Chaos Knight. The Venom, the Poison Nova actually doesn't hit a single person. Chen pops his ultimate and has his mech, but just so much damage. Morphling tanking it up, trying to survive. And if he could just get a couple more hits out, he will be alright. But the problem is he doesn't have any more points of Morph. And so as aggressive as he is and as much damage as he can put out, he can't heal up while he is in the middle of combat. He doesn't have that utility with him. But he is putting a lot more damage out with that Adaptive Strike. What I was trying to say before is that it has only a 20 base damage, and its coefficient scaling on your relatively low agility early on is not worth it whatsoever for the 100 mana cost. But now it's getting a lot better. Rank 3 and soon to be rank 4 will make it much more worthwhile, especially with the Eagle Song. Putting that damage out. And now they have taken down the tier 1 and tier 2 on bottom lane. Tier 1 and mid is down as well, so they only have 1 tier 2 tower remaining on Chaos Dunker's lineup. And their base towers are getting dropped down. The damage coming out from Rubik doing pretty well, but he is out of mana, and they are going to have to fall back, assuming the enemy team allows them. But what choice do they have? They don't have the boots, they don't have the mobility, and they're going to have to fall back. Arcane boots going across, and are they really going to keep on going with this? I mean, I know they got the mech, I know they got the arcanes, but holy crap. And they actually got the rank 4 Frostbite. Lich is toast with that power shot, going to finish him off. No chance for him at all. That really long duration Frostbite just controls position so well, and now the Telekinesis is going to pull the Venomancer forward. Amazing Shackle Shot while in the air, and just disabling him so hardcore. But with the Exorcism popped up, Cold Snap on the Chen, they're going to have to fall back for the moment. But as you can see, the resolve is not weakened whatsoever. The Without a Rift goes on 4 seconds on a Rubik. That's what he's looking for, and they can actually do a lot with that. But the Tornado kind of throwing them up, and they're worried for their lives too much, and they're just going to have to fall back to defend their tier 3 and turtling on your tower. Generally speaking, you would see that the Dire team will be wasting time, and the fact that it's going to be almost impossible for them to push the tier 3 without Aegis this early on in the game. The fact that the Radiant team, Chaos Dunkers, keep on coming out to answer their call and just kind of push forward outside their base keeps on getting easy kills for OG, and now oGaming going to be focusing on this tower. They have the Satyr to tank it up for a bit, and Rubik with that Exorcism could put out so much damage. And nice spell steal from the Death Prophet there. Now the ultimate, longer cooldown ultimate is coming up from Lich, and it's going to be coming up in about 10 seconds. And that will be a key factor in the fact that, like I said, they don't have any kinds of illusions right now. Manta Style not picked up on the Morphling. He is opting for that Ethereal Blade, and we'll have it in about 15 minutes. But the Rowdy Rift goes on Crystal Maiden, and she's going to drop down. And the Shackle does not manage on anything. They're fighting a losing battle with these creeps. There's only 2 creeps here. They need to make this Chain Frost stop bouncing, but they're all running together, doing a lot of damage to them, bringing the Windrunner down to just 160 HP, and the Tornado does go off on. Now he's doing a power shot. Actually does not hit him despite the animation, but the Ethereal Blade just popping him off without even a second thought. So Morphling has morphed up, but using rank 1 morph, he has actually morphed up most of his strength. He only has 23 base strength now, and then 70 base agility. So obviously he put a lot of, while he was in Fountain, he put a lot of his strength into agility, and plans to leave it there permanently with that rank 1. Now he has a rank 4 adaptive strike, and with this super fast Ethereal Blade, 15 minutes, is able to put any damage pressure he wants. I generally say he's going to kill a support hero with it, but even Chaos Knight, even with 2 bracers, he has no magic armor, and this is almost enough to one-shot him, with if you factor in the waveform as well. If he does a full combo with Ethereal Blade, Adaptive Strike, and waveform, that should bring him just about low enough. I'm not sure if it will do all of it with his current agility quantity, and he's getting even more at the moment. But even with 1,000 life, you're nowhere near safe against this glass cannon shotgun of a Morphling. Checking things real quick. Just making sure that's all set there. And now we are moving forward. And the Invoker has gone for a build that kind of puts a little bit in everything. He puts 3 quads for the defensive play they had to put in lane. But the biggest issue right now, he's level 8. Invoker needs those levels early on, and he is actually dropping down really quickly. Just the damage coming out. Is that a second Exorcism from Rubik? Another Exorcism coming out of Rubik. Now he is getting bursted down pretty hard by the Cold Snap, but just knives throwing just damage everywhere. Putting it between the ribcage and twisting it, because knives is just blowing through this and putting so much damage in, and it is just so devastating for the Chaos Dunkers. They don't have too much that they can do to answer back against the damage coming out from Morphling. Even if they focused him hard, and him playing a very glass cannon, he can waveform out, and he doesn't have to worry about it very much at all. Now Venomancer getting pushed forward and going in and trying to get the Poison Nova off. Rubik doing the exact same thing for some reason, and doing a lot of damage to the Lich, but no damage over time is going to matter. But the Crystal Maiden actually popping a Frank 1 Freezing Field, doing a decent chunk of damage, but it's not going to be enough. The Chaos Knight's going to survive. The Morphling does drop down along with his ally Rubik, and of course Crystal Maiden did fall too. Split push coming in from the Chen, but they should be able to retaliate against that pretty well with their reds alive right now. Morphling popping plenty of gold to buy back and stay in the fight, going for his Manta as the next pickup with that Blades of Alacrity. Forced that from the Windrunner. Windrunner actually forcing forward the Venomancer for a kill, but it did actually seal their demise with that Poison Nova going off on all of them and hurting more and more as it goes along. So nice drum pickup from Chen. Actually gives him more mobility than I believe any of the heroes here, but the Tornado is not going to help him in any way, shape, or form. Cold Snap going on him, and the dots, the Gale, he's just out of position and he gets knocked out. Not a spot he should be at all, even with knives playing like that, even with him being able to do a ton of damage to somebody and get out really quickly. It's just not what... It was a bad position for Chen. Playing a little cocky and not really thinking on that one. But he's been playing very well overall, and that's obviously not going to cost them too much in the long run. You can see the advantage has just been piling up harder and harder, and well over 20,000 gold now. It definitely looks like oGaming's game. They don't have too much more that they have to fear from the enemy team. Picking up a Roshan, and they will be able to push into middle lane. Tower is down. They have the racks vulnerable, and with that, an Aegis will easily allow them to just finish this off. So. Yeah. Venomancer just caught out a little bit. Actually, I'm not sure how she did that much burst damage by herself, but I guess Venomancer was just low from creeps or something along those lines, and she was able to pick her off with a nice shackle. But is able to, with the Windrunner mobility and the Force Staff, to get out of that bad spot. Now, Crystal Maiden looking for some slows, looking to set up the Morphling. Right now they have really good ward vision with his Observer, kind of know in general where everybody's at, and keeps that well covered. What I was trying to say before, the Invoker's build he's kind of distributed a lot among the different elements there. He's going for an overall Quaz and Wex build, but he did put a single point in Exhort in order to enable the other, 4 spells that you get when you put one last element in. So he does have all 10 spells at his disposal, but they are all weaker and not generally speaking going to do very much. The Tornado being the best one, and even that doesn't have that much range or lift time. So along those lines, there's only so much he can do. And with the waveform, we'll finish off Lich 100-0 and replicates out immediately. And he's perfectly safe. So he can just pretty much do that as many times as he wants with the cooldown of his ultimate, assuming he requires that to escape. The 2 Force Staffs picked up, one on the Windrunner, one on the Rubik. And even with the Gale, he's not too worried about his positioning whatsoever. And now this Rubik has stolen the Venom Wards and is using it to push very effectively. It's kind of ward-on-ward action here. A little bit of a slow crawl towards the enemy tower, but it is working, and the tower has dropped down below 2/3 HP. Catching an eye on Morphling, making sure he's not doing something super crazy ninja on the enemy team. But Chaos Knight wants to go. He has that drum. He has more mobility than he did before by far. He's up to about 400 movement speed, and he really wants to jump on somebody here. They know that there's only about 2 or 3 heroes down in the bottom lane, and they're going to be opting for it to jump on them really, really quickly. Middle barracks actually taking some damage from the creeps, and they just have to keep their lanes well covered. But Morphling and the Rubik just doing so much damage and giving the Invoker before they have a chance to buy an eyelash at that. They blink and somebody's dead with the amount of agility that's just flying in the direction now. Chain Frost does go out, but they're so spread out, it should only pop once, and that's what a frozen waste, because that Lich ulti is now on cooldown. Lich drops down from the Rubik, and now Chaos Knight jumping in the fray, but only 2-second stun, not going to secure him anything. With the Frostbite and the ultimate from Crystal Maiden, she's going to drop him down, and now Death Prophet gets evaporated by the remaining shields. So they're going to easily take this tower, and from there, most likely take the game. Well played by OG. I will definitely say that. They controlled their top lane very well, exactly the way I thought they would, and they played very admirably in that sense.
Radiant's bottom barracks has fallen. Radiant's bottom barracks has fallen.
Good game is called. So here come they're transitioning towards the middle lane, rotating there and taking down the middle racks as well. Morphling has his fun, just giving people down with that Burnination. And just wombo combo with that damage, with that stun. Just completely evaporating. Actually getting pulled for Chaos Knight gets a very lucky Rally Rift in and actually ends up pulling Rubik in, who just buys back. So not the biggest deal in the world. And with that, the GPM of the Morphling is now over 600, looking at 620 in a 22-minute game. And that's just up to the supports, just for letting him farm so well, getting so many towers early on, and just having that presence out where he doesn't even have to worry about being that carry, and that very squishy early game individual replicates out at the second he gets Reality Rift in. It's lucky Reality Rift too, but not fortunate enough to take off the last few seconds of that replicant. With that cooldown of 80 seconds, duration of 60, it really was on its last legs, and he was very lucky that he used it then, because he didn't have much longer. Though the counter on top of his head is always very helpful for them to make sure. Jailbird looking to do something with just the damage from Rubik. Does the Force Staff, maybe in over his head now, doesn't have the Force Staff available, gets slowed up, 4-second stun, and he's going to drop down with no buyback available. And he's looking for as many Sanj and Yashas as he can fit in his inventory, because he knows the game's over. Frostbite comes out on Death Prophet, and with the penance, with the damage, Frost and Morphling actually getting a kill on Lich as well. So him just getting the opportunity now, going duking it out with the Chaos Knight, who doesn't have his Phantasms up. It's just easy kills for the Morphling, who has even the Manta style available now. He can Manta out of the Gale, I believe. I'm not 100% sure if that's dispellable, but one way or another. And they're looking at finish this up in no time at all. They actually haven't looked at Roshan, which with a Chen you generally want to. You have to keep your neutrals, tanking it up. Morphling farms that real quick, then can dive even more aggressive than he has been, which is considerable. But we will be finishing up this game, and that will, as it is Sunday, this is was day 3, so that will conclude the OOC Cup, presumably. There's a couple games going simultaneously with this, and I guess they will be the last one, since this one was a relatively quick game. But this will be the last OOC game I'm casting, so I'm glad that they allowed me to jump in on this and try it out. Amateur teams, amateur casters, but it was really fun overall, and I definitely support them if they want to continue going with it. Not sure if I'll have my time window open to cast it personally, but I'm definitely glad they did it and hope they pursue it as it goes along. Radiant repelling them for the short time period, has exorcism, things along those lines. Pulls Crystal Maiden out, and she's going to drop down. Nice, kind of going for a 1v5 right now, and he waveforms through to kill the Lich, but will that cost him his life is the question. They pursued the illusion rather than him just for a moment. He's actually going to turn around, Ethereal Blade, Adaptive Strike up, and he can pop that on whoever he wants. So he's going to get stunned out for 3 seconds. That should be enough, though. He can even morph while disabled if he needs to, but boom, Adaptive. And that's all she wrote. Death Prophet even trying for it. Not going to happen. Waveform, Ethereal. I should have done that in the other order, but no big deal with Rubik finishing it off with a Fade Bolt. Where is he going? He's got to finish up those Sanjinyashas, man. He's got to get to the enemy shop. It's essential, very vital that he gets as much Sanjinyasha as possible. Does he get the slow off? Yes, Sanjinyasha Greater Maim, 15% chance to proc, and he manages it. Big plays coming up from the Rubik.
Radiant's middle barracks has fallen.
I don't know why I'm commenting on that, but I think it's funny. And now they push for the racks, and they push for the win. Adolf Hitler's still trying to pick off on that Windrunner, but he's going to give himself a Blink Dagger on Chen. Funniest thing I've seen. But a little bit more troll than the Sanjinyashas even, I believe, but Blink Dagger's never bad at him. Right. So he's going to try to line up a Shackle, but instead he's going to get stunned out for a couple seconds. Not a big deal for him. He's looking for his Orchid, but again, the Shackle does not latch, and just putting out quite a bit of damage. Gets tornadoed up, and definitely blasted out.
Radiant's top tower.
Carry Chen coming in here. Doesn't get pulled in, but just the stun coming out, he will drop down. But in turn, Crystal Maiden popping a nice ultimate. Shackle going across. Well, good timing from towers and bulk now. And that's going to be out. Four-man kill for one. Not that it's a contest, but holy crap, that was a really nice setup to kill somebody in the fountain with that amazing freezing field. That is rank 2. She has her Blink Dagger even if she needed to set it up better. But the Shackle shot with enough, along with the slows. Morphling. Looking for some action, gets another kill with this nice Aerial Blade, just auto-attacking him down. And Rubik actually steals a Lich Q, Frost Blast. And ultimate going across, split him across immediately, even without the Force Staff, and just burning him down with that magic damage. Good game, well played, and that's Team oGaming finishing off. So, well, if you guys enjoyed this game, or this casting, or anything along those lines, you can check out my channel on YouTube. Just search BlazeCasting. Also got, of course, the channel that I'm streaming on right now, which is twitch.tv/BlazeCasting. But either way, just feel like checking me out. I'm an up-and-coming, not even been casting for 2 months, been working on it, and hopefully it was entertaining enough for the time being. So, thanks for watching. We'll go to the scoreboard, and that will be my conclusion of my cast tonight. Thanks for watching, guys.